Phantasm. Is it a nightmare? Phantasm. Is it an illusion? Phantasm. Is it an evil?
You have to take me home.
But why?
No questions. You must take me home.
Phantasm. Is it a fantasy? Phantasm. Is it alive?
There was nobody driving.
Whatever it is, if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Phantasm.
The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Television. Original broadcast date, January 17th, 2025, in the beginning, the early stages of Scarefest 17. My co-host tonight is Barbara Jane. This woman she always seems to say, she tells me she works on Friday. But every time there's a celebrity, nope, I got a free night. So anyway, welcome back, Barbara Jane. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
And of course, our guest tonight for the show, Lynn Eastman Rossi. We had so much fun with your husband. We just couldn't wait to get you on the show.
I just want to say Happy New Year to the fans and how much I love the fans. We have the best fans for Phantasm, I have to say. And so here's to a prosperous and horrifying 2025.
And that's how you get in the Scarefest mood. Personally, I think horror fans are absolutely terrifying with themselves. The movies don't bother me. Horror fans scare the shit out of me. Okay. Tonight, Joe Lewis will be on later with The Wolf of Snow Hollow. He keeps finding horror movies to review that I've never heard of. We have two guest announcements tonight for Scarefest 17. Two of them, and I think they will both just absolutely knock your all socks off. I'm just going to say it. I know one of them will, and I think the other one should. So, let's go ahead and now get into the interview with Lynn. Okay, Lynn, the question I've been dying to ask you. Let's see here. Long Beach, California.
That's it.
Married to someone from Philadelphia, PA.
Oh, yeah.
Explain the dynamic there.
Well, I have to say that the stars made it happen. And I don't mean Hollywood movie stars, although they were part of it. So, yeah, well, what happened is that I'm from Long Beach, California, as you mentioned, and in Long Beach, I was a star. I mean, I was doing all the lead roles in Civic Light Opera, and I started out very young and worked my way up, and roles like Laurie in Oklahoma and Nancy and Oliver and Anna and the King and I. I mean, so I thought that I had to go to Hollywood. But before I got there, I met a guy named Paul Ratajik, who was a guitar player, and he asked me to be part of this band. There was a competition. And so I said, sure. And we ended up, having a relationship, and we built a business together called the Recording Suite. And my parents let us take over the garage and the side of the house, which was like a family room. And this little studio became known as the hottest little studio in LA. And so we had people like incredible bands. We had RCA Records that had a subsidiary label where they would send us their new acts. And my mother was a musician. I'm a musician, as well as an actress and director and producer. And I was a model and been in a lot of things. I was Miss Long Beach. I mean, it never stopped for me. I was so innocent about it. It's like people showed me who I was, and I had no idea who I was. It was weird, but I kept just having these opportunities, one right after the other. And so what happened is my mother knew Reggie Bannister. They went to the same church, and they played music together. And so he had by then known Don Coscarelli, and they were getting to the point where they were thinking about where are they going to record the soundtrack for this movie. And so he was talking to my mom, and she said, well, my daughter has a recording studio. He said, really? She goes, yeah, I mean, they're doing things with, we had even Michael Nesmith found us, who was no longer one of the Monkees, but he was doing these concept albums on his own, and he was living in Carmel, and he heard about this hot little studio in Long Beach, California, and so we did one of his records, one of his projects. So in comes Dawn and Reggie to check out this studio, and they loved it. They said, we want to record here. And they had hired Fred Myro, who had done many incredible soundtracks for big movies. And here he was doing this movie in Long Beach, California. And most of the people were from Long Beach. Not all of them, but it was kind of a cool project because Don's mother did the hair and makeup and the wardrobe. His father was the producer. And long story short, they ended up recording the soundtrack in our studio. But before that happened, he said, you want to be in the movie? And I said, well, send me the script. And so, the script that ended up being the final movie was not the same script. And he had a 3-hour movie that he had to cut down. And, when you're making a movie, you got to focus on the storyline. So that's why my part is on the cutting room floor. But it doesn't matter to the fans. I'm telling you, what happened is that I, knew I had to get to Hollywood. And so the relationship broke up. Paul ended up staying there with the recording studio. I moved to Hollywood, went to the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute to get some serious training. And I did a play that Strasberg produced. And that's when I met my husband's best friend. The guy that was cast opposite me had been fired because he was arguing with the director, and finally it got to be so bad that the director just said, get out, you're done. So in comes Ken Lerner, who played Rocky Malacho on Happy Days. And I mean, we're 2 weeks before the show opens, and there's absolutely no chemistry between us, but I'm a method actress, so I know, you use substitution for that. You just find something about that person that reminds you of somebody that you're really attracted to, because we're supposed to be engaged to be married. But he was really nervous, and he said, because we only had 2 weeks, I don't blame him. He said, would you mind if a friend of mine, really wonderful actor, came in and just watched our scenes? I said, absolutely. Please, yes, let's do this. So it was Leo. So Leo comes in, and he watches the scene, and it's a scene where Ken touches my thigh, and it's supposed to be this moment, right? But it wasn't happening. So when Leo was critiquing the scene, he said, "Now, Ken, when you touch her thigh," and he touched my thigh, he said, "You got to let it affect you." And later on, he told me that it affected him. So he asked Ken for my phone number. And unfortunately, I was just breaking up with this musician from North Carolina. And I was like, I think he's a really nice guy, but I just, I just want to focus on my career right now. So we had a run of about 8 weeks. And at the end of 8 weeks, there was a cast party. And Leo was waiting for me at the cast party. And as soon as I walked in, he swooped me up, got me a drink, and just was so charming. And he said, "Let's have tea tomorrow. Can I take you to tea?" Because he knows I'm English, right? And so we were inseparable after that. So that's how we met. He had been studying with Milton Katsalas, and but he had Strasbourg from New York. He had studied, but we had a lot in common. And yeah, so that's how we met. And we've been together ever since.
Beautiful story. But what I'm really interested in, I've talked to your husband. I've spoke to you. I want to, who had the worst culture shock? I'm just trying to get in, you being a California girl, and I'm sure Philadelphia is quite a bit different from
Absolutely.
LA.
Absolutely.
So well, I want to know, was it you putting up with his little intricacies or him with you, do you think?
Opposites do attract, and he was a different animal than other guys that I dated for sure. He's very East Coast. I think I have a problem with Brooklyn, but he's from Philadelphia, but he's working on a project in Brooklyn now where, I feel uncomfortable there for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's the mentality possibly. I don't know. The men are different about women there a little bit. California is very progressive. I think, well, wouldn't you say? Have you ever been to California, Wes?
No, I'm from Kentucky. We never get to go anywhere. Farthest west I've been is Texas. Yeah, for a convention, basically.
Yeah. So I think probably me, because he had come here, and you have to talk to him about what his culture is. But he said he'd never met anybody like me before, and I could probably say the same about him. I was having him carve pumpkins with me, taking hikes in the woods with me. I'm very close with the seasons. I am. My father was raised on a ranch in Utah, and there was no doctors around, so they had to use food as medicine. They grew garlic and onions and nettles and sage, and that's what they used for medicine. My mother was a health food nut, so I grew up, in California, just, eating a lot of greens and, a lot of sprouts and things like that. And he was raised probably on, a lot of pasta. And he's half Irish too, though, so he loves potatoes. So we kind of meet there. But you know what? After all these years, it's kind of like we've blended and we've accepted our differences, and I think we enjoy them. I think they're kind of fun,
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Barbara Jane, it'll be your turn.
Oh, yay.
Are you a fan of horror movies, books, comics, music, and collectibles? Rue Morgue magazine is for you. Subscribe today to receive 6 or 12 print issues annually and join me, executive editor Andrea Subissati, on an ongoing journey through the horror genre of the past, present, and future. Plus, get access to unmissable special editions such as A Century of Witches, 50 Years of Gore Cinema, British horror movies, and so much more. Rue Morgue, the world's premier horror and culture and entertainment magazine since 1997. Accept no substitute.
All right, Lynn. So just going back to kind of what you were talking about with Don Coscarelli and some of the past there, can you take us through, as you got into Phantasm, and was that a little bit of a shock for you too, going from the stage, like live entertainment
Well,
versus?
yeah. I mean, it was my first movie. And and I hadn't had much training other than just actual training. I mean, I was studying dance and ballet and singing because I was doing mainly musicals, And so, yeah, it was. First of all, it was a very comfortable set because it was like family, you know, and and I got to do a lot of things that I hadn't done before. I had a scene with Don, the guy that plays. I wait a minute, Bill Thornberry. I mean, and he plays Jody, and he's supposed to be dating my sister. And so Don had written this scene for us where his mother put me in this little baby doll nightie, and Jody comes and knocks on the door, and I open the door in this little nightie, and he's asked for my sister, and I said, well, no, she's not here. And he goes, okay, well, do you think I could come in and wait for her? And I, was like, well, I don't know, Jody. I don't know, because no one's home, And anyway, it didn't make the movie. But when Don wrote it, I was like, are you trying to cause trouble between me and my sister? What are you doing with this scene, So things like that. And everything was kind of fluid and spontaneous. And he was writing as we were going. He had, this had come from a dream where it was a nightmare where he was running down this corridor and he was, this silver bullet was chasing him and he was trying to get away. And it was so lucid, such a lucid dream that he ended up going to a cabin in the mountains and writing the script. And so when you watch the movie, nothing really makes sense. It's really a nightmare. Like most dreams, they don't really make sense. But making the movie, I have to say, really made me even more want to realize I need to go to Hollywood. I can't just stay in Long Beach. And so that's what I did. Yeah. And I worked with, who did I work with? I worked on Partners in Crime. What my husband, that was Lonnie Anderson and Linda Carter. It was a series shot in San Francisco. And then my next job was the Reform School Girl. And I started working with Jonathan Kaplan, and he's kind of like a Scorsese in that he likes to work with the same people. So then I kept getting work with Jonathan Kaplan. So after that, I did Unlawful Entry with Ray Liotta and Madeline Stowe, Kurt Russell.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
Yes, and I had a scene with Kurt Russell that, again, didn't make the movie, but I was wearing a necklace and he wanted to get it for his wife. And I was always a fan of Kurt Russell's. I mean, I grew up watching him as a little girl. And so I got to spend a lot of time with him. And he liked to do magic tricks and he liked to tell jokes. And, I said, so, are you happy about this job? And he goes, well, this is a money job for me. And I said, you think Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, a money job. And he goes, well, it's all relative. He goes, we have a lot of houses, we have a lot of boats, we have a lot of, they had just started this business with, the RVs for celebrities. And, it's all relative. It seems like as rich as you are, you have more things, and then you still have to pay for those things. So I can't complain there. And then Project X with Matthew Broderick and Helen Hunt. And I played Sergeant Huntley. And I was part of this top secret project where they were teaching chimpanzees how to fly these pilot these jets. And so what happened was there's a scene where they're all in these simulators, all these chimpanzees, and there's trainers all around while we're rehearsing. And every time we would rehearse, I'm supposed to come down and walk through, just checking out everything because I'm part of this project. And every time I would pass this one chimpanzee, he was biggest chimpanzee, the oldest chimpanzee, he would start freaking out like like crazy, like, and his trainer would be hitting him and everything. And so we did it a couple more times, and every time I would walk by him, he would freak out. And the trainer said, "I'm sorry, but you look like the trainer that castrated him."
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. And he said, "But don't worry." And then Jonathan said, "Well, we're going to have to take the trainers away, because trainers had them on leashes and just in case. But for the take, they had to take all the leashes off." And I said, "But you're going to leave the leash on Goliath." His name was Goliath.
Of course it was. Of course it was Goliath.
And he said no. And then the trainer tried to calm me down. He goes, "I'm going to be right there." And the thing about training chimpanzees is you have to beat them first. You have to, and that's why there was actually a lawsuit, because it's the law of the jungle. Chimpanzees are 10 times stronger than a man, but they don't know it. And so that's why when they're young, you have to dominate them, you know.
Like the alpha, right?
Yeah, like the alpha.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's what he basically told me, is that he's, this big Goliath is afraid of the trainer. So she said, "You're okay, you're okay." But still, my heart was in my throat,
Oh my
with
gosh. Yeah, this is scary.
Yeah, but everything turned out okay.
Oh, thank goodness.
That was good. And yeah, so, it's always great to be on the set. On that particular set, I had gone in for my fitting about a month earlier. And then a month later, I'm putting on my uniform and it's a little tight. And I was like, oh boy, I'm gaining weight. Well, I was pregnant. So
I didn't even know.
I know. And so that was exciting for Leo and I, to have a child. And so what happened in my career is that everything was pointing in all the right directions. And, I was doing plays in Hollywood. I was getting a lot of commercials and some television work. I even did some radio, all the movies I just mentioned. And I was on the set one day, and my baby was at home with a nanny. And I started thinking about her. And you know what happens is your breath start leaking, because I was nursing. And I just wanted to be a mom. I realized I wanted to be a mom. And Leo's career took off so that I was able to do that. So I was like room mother, and I had an acting class after school for parents that worked, called The Magic Space, where I would teach the kids. We wrote our own plays. My favorite was My Mother's Fairy Hideaway, because they're really into fairies at that age, and magic. And the boys were the crows, they were the evil ones, and the girls were the fairies. And they wrote this story pretty much by themselves. And then my daughter plays guitar, and she was writing songs, and she wrote a song called My Mother's Fairy Hideaway, which we used in the play, which was really cool. So I got to be, whatever age my children were, I became that age. And I'm that way we have grandkids now. I just adore children. And I'm also a green witch, which you may not know. A green witch meaning that we're in tune with the seasons. And right now we're in winter, and we follow what the plants and the animals are doing. And in winter, the plants go dormant, animals hibernate, and it's time for humans also to turn inward, and to rejuvenate, restore, so that you're ready for spring.
Yes.
So this has been my time to do that.
Wonderful. Well, yeah. I was just actually, I had mentioned to you about massage clients. So I was just talking to a massage client about this graphic that I had seen when it showed like a cartoon of a little lady that's beneath the ground, like it's a little burrow, and she's reading a book. And the whole point was to say there's so much go, go, go in the winter, and people get upset that they can't do this and they can't do that, when really we should be taking that time to just breathe and to actually hibernate. That's the whole intention of that season.
Yes. Like I tell my students to turn their bedrooms into a sanctuary, and get rid of any kind of electronic devices, and just bring in books to read and candles to light, and incense, or whatever makes you feel the way you want to feel. And this is the time to do that, so that we're ready for spring. But a lot of the work, let's just talk about Kundalini a little bit now. So
Yay.
Kundalini yoga is an ancient practice. It's over 5,000 years old, and it was these masters. And so yoga's been around forever. Hatha yoga, Iyengar yoga. And those are postures that you try to master. And it can take years to master these postures. So the masters were looking around saying, well, we need to come up with something for the household, or the people that have to work and they don't have time to master all the postures. So this is Kundalini. It's a faster way, because Kundalini, yoga is about body, mind, spirit, about waking up, the awakening, the great awakening that we hear so much about. And so Kundalini just gets you there faster, basically. And what it is what you realize, and this may make sense or may not make sense, but I'm just going to say it anyway, that your body is finite and will someday die. But there's a part of you that's eternal, And so when you turn, Kundalini yoga is done with the eyes closed, if you can believe that. We close our eyes and we turn our gaze up to our third eye. And when you do that, it pulls on your pineal gland, which sits in the middle of your brain, and that's your intuition. And by the time most of us are 8 years old, we start to lose our intuition. If you notice, children are really tuned in. They're
Very playful.
They're still connected.
Imaginative.
Yes. Mm-hmm. In fact, Mike, Dwayne, what was his name? Wayne Dyer, if you know him. But
great books.
Yeah, he would just hang out with the kids because he felt like they were just they're like still from heaven, they're still just so innocent and pure. So, so you get to know that part of you, so that when you take your last breath, you're already in touch with that part of you that's eternal, So it's not religious, it's spiritual. And also the witch part of me. Now, what I do is make medicine out of plants, right? And it's either an overnight infusion, or sometimes we boil the different herbs. They're all medicinal herbs. I'm not talking about psychedelic, although, I'm all for those. But this is just day-to-day stuff that nourishes your body, calms your nervous system, and gives your body basically what it needs, just the minerals, the vitamins, and the enzymes. So it's changed my life. And there's a school called the School of the Sacred Wild. If anybody's interested, I would highly recommend you sign up. It's a 10-month program, and then you go to year 2, year 3, and ultimately to become an herbalist. But it's just fun because it's a global community. She's grown so much over the years. Her name's Marysia Marysakova, and she grew up in Poland, and her earliest memory is her grandmother showing her how to pick nettles without getting stung. Do you have nettles in Wisconsin? Maybe you don't have nettles.
Nettles? Is that? No, I don't.
Yes. Yeah.
We got them in Kentucky.
Okay. They sting you. They sting you. So you got to get rid of that sting. You got to know just how to pick them. But so, Leo was a little taken aback when I started making all this stuff. And, but then he noticed the difference in me, just my energy level. I mean, I feel like I'm aging backwards now. I feel like I'm getting younger. And
well, you look younger. You look
Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. So whatever you're doing, it's working.
Yeah. So I just have one weekly class, and then I am either going to do a thing called the Sacred Series, where it's sacred places, sacred foods, sacred meditations, just about kind of, it's so interesting how the dark and the light, right? So the horror thing, and then this work that's in the light, it's like they need each other. We live on a polarized planet. We have good and bad, black and white, male and female, light and dark. Everything is polarized. And that's what makes us grow. If we didn't have that kind of conflict going on, we would never grow, because we're human and we would just keep going along. It's these challenges that make us grow. So we see chaos right now with all that's going on in the world, these fires, this new administration, we don't know what to expect. it's going to be different. I know it's going to be different. They call Trump the great disruptor, and that's a good thing. I think we need.
I've heard that. Yes, yes.
I think we need to be disrupted. We were headed. I don't like that the Democrats took away our rights. You know, I never thought because I don't do vaccinations. Because why would I? I'm so healthy. You know, I've never had vaccinations, and I don't go to doctors because I was raised, like I said, with food is medicine. So everything that grows on the planet is here for us to nourish us and to keep us healthy. So all this, it's all about money. You know, these pharmaceuticals that are chemicals, and they have I mean, my God, okay, they treat the symptoms, but they never heal you. You never get off.
I think in general too, as and I speaking for myself, I mean, as I get older, as some people get older, they try to look for things that are maybe just a little bit different. So something plant-based over chemical-based, just to be better to their body, you know. So I even in the field that I'm in, and I work with chiropractors upstairs. So it's that whole try to find something that's more from nature.
I understand. Once you go down the Western medicine road, like, you know, my husband had a heart attack, so he had to go and get it taken care of. And so they gave him, you know, blood pressure medication and all this other stuff. And because once you start down that road, you got to stay on that road.
Right, right.
So I'm not saying for anybody not to stop taking their medication.
Oh, right. But there's a time and a place. Like, obviously,
I've never had it. So, you know, I've never taken that path because of the way, just simply because of the way I was raised. And I raised my daughters that way, and they're raising our grandkids that way. And so we were really offended when the right to decide what you put in your body, they were trying to force everybody to take vaccinations. It was never like that. We always had a choice, you know? So for there not to be a choice, that was upsetting. But, and then we couldn't go to movies. We couldn't travel. I mean, they were restricting what you did if you weren't vaccinated. That was wrong.
Well, I definitely feel like I could say 5 years now. So the last 5 years have been a little bit of a blur.
Yeah,
exactly. Bit of a blur.
Yeah, that COVID.
I don't know what happened. Yeah.
Well, it was them trying to take control, you know, because that's what you do. You create fear first. You know, this is the playbook to get control of people. You create fear first, and then you have the remedy.
And on that note, it's right on time for another break.
Okay. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
Quicker than you realize. Okay, we're ready to do our announcements. Our first announcement. She played a teacher in Nightmare on Elm Street with 212 movie credits from Helen Keller versus Nightwolves, which I have to see now that I've heard the name of that movie. I will buy it. I will rent it, whatever. To Insidious, but you'll always be the orange lady in There's Something About Mary to Me. That's it. Yeah. But Lynn Shay is coming to Scarefest 2025. Now, here's the one that might just knock your socks off. I don't remember her ever being here before. Let's bring up Juliette Lewis. Natural Born Killers, Dusk Till Dawn, Cape Fear, Juliette Lewis. This young lady already has 106 acting credits, and I'm sure we're fans of all of them. Juliette Lewis, there's our celebrity announcements for the evening. Now, if you've been keeping this on score on your playing the home game, today the emails went out to returning VIPs. So if you haven't gotten your email, you need to follow up on that. But returning VIPs, not Weekend Plus, not Weekend Passes, VIP level, Gold, Platinum. Those emails went out to tell you about when you'll be buying your tickets. February 1st, all tickets will go on sale at 7 p.m., including any leftover VIP tickets. Returning vendor registration also opens up, and the film festival submissions begin. Vendor registration opens for new vendors on February 15th, March 1st, speaker and media applications come up. And April 1st, Scarefest ink tattoo artists will start building that little feature. I do want to tell everybody, if you haven't noticed it online, Central Kentucky Mystical Market this Sunday, January 19th, is doing a Psychic Sunday and Arts Fair at a new location. Tates Creek Neighborhood Pop-Up, 1165 Center Parkway, Suite 180. Look them up on Facebook. The Central Kentucky Mystical Market Psychic Sunday. Sunday only. Psychic Sunday this Sunday. And our last little thing we want to remind you of. The Nevermore. Welcome to Nevermore, the Raven Ball. Join us for a night of mystery and intrigue as we celebrate all things Edgar Allan Poe. Put on your best Gothic attire and dance the night away to hauntingly beautiful music. Saturday, September 6, 2025, starting at 8 p.m. at a secret location. And if Edgar Allan Poe cannot bring out the waltz music for me, I don't know who can. So anyway, yes, I will be there and I will be dancing. Get ready for a night of darkness and elegance that you won't soon forget. February 15th, I believe, is when the tickets go on sale. If you want to keep up with this, go to mysticlunaevents.com for more information. But February 15th is when the tickets go on sale. Now back to our guest, the lovely and talented Lynn Eastman Rossi.
I want to go to that. It's so funny that you brought up Edgar Allan Poe, because I had prepared, because Phantasm, the word phantasm comes from Edgar Allan Poe. He was the first one to write it in one of his poems.
I had no idea.
That's where Dawn found it. And once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, and certain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now to still the beating of my heart I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. That is it, and nothing more." It goes on, and I won't. I will stop now. But
Now,
don't you just love him? I
did
mean,
you
I should
Google that shit, or did you have that book laying on your desk?
I had it right here. It's actually Googled. And the one about the raven, though, is also, that was the black cat. Anyway, I love Edgar Allan Poe. As you can.
Okay.
And I want to go to this event. So
Well,
I don't know
come
how.
on.
I know.
I'll get you a ticket. You
And
get
it's
in town.
dancing.
I will make sure you get a ticket.
When is it again? Would you say one more time when it is? What is the
February
date?
15th.
Oh.
No, that's when the tickets go on sale. September.
Oh.
Shit.
Oh, it's September. Oh, we could maybe do that.
Mark
Anyway.
this in your September 6th. Mark it on your calendar. September 6th.
Okay. Thank you for that. So where were we?
Okay, I was getting ready to ask you about Night of the Demon.
Okay.
Now, what I want to know is, when was that? Was that actually filmed in 79 and 80? It came out in 1980.
Yeah,
and
because
that film looked 10 years old when it came out.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, I was a student at the Strasberg Institute, and this guy was like, "Oh, you want to just be in this movie?" And I knew it had no budget, and I just did it because I wanted the experience, And so all of a sudden years later, it's out and it's a movie. And
so I was right. You're telling me I was
Yeah.
right. In other words, there was a big delay from when it was filmed until it was released.
Yes. And I didn't even know that Phantasm was a cult classic until, I mean, I had moved to Hollywood. And so, Don and everybody was still in the Long Beach. And I just didn't know that Phantasm had become a cult classic until my teenage daughter went to the Hollywood Cemetery on Halloween to watch a scary movie with her friends. And I told her about Phantasm and my recording studio and my band and all the stuff I'd done. And so she came back and she goes, Mom, your movie Phantasm is a cult classic. And that was the first that I heard about. Then I started getting the calls. But meanwhile, everybody else had been doing these kinds of, Scare Fest and Horror Fest and all the different shows. So when I show up, when I finally get the call to show up, people have their posters and paraphernalia already signed. And it's like, oh my God, you're here. It's like I was the missing link to complete their posters, You know how fans like to get everybody to sign the posters. So it's been really great. And it's great because Leo does Halloween too. And they like to put us together when we do these shows because some people want pictures of both of us. And so it's been really fun. We travel and we get to see our fans. I love it. I've been very welcomed into the whole Phantasm world. And then it was great to see Don again. He had us all over for dinner. He has a beautiful home in Santa Monica.
What struck me about Night of the Demons, I mean, okay, the editing was...
Like, I don't know much about it because I was the student actor and they put me in I was supposed to wake up. So this was like my acting challenge is you have to pretend.
I'm not going to criticize the movie too much because you can tell it was done on a shoestring budget. But one thing I will criticize, it came out in 1980, which I don't remember at all back then. But that was I was a sophomore in high school. I didn't know. But watching it now, I pulled it up on Falsum. I think it was on some streaming network. The clothing, I don't remember that much about 1980, but I am fairly sure those clothes in that movie were out of date in 1980. In other words, the collars were way too wide. Way too wide.
That's very observant of you.
I'm a style geek. What can I tell you?
Yeah, you're right. And then it has different variations of the movie too. They've edited it all different ways.
The one thing I would love to do, I would love to get if I could get in touch with whoever actually has the rights for that movie, that would be the most mystery science theater type crowd pleaser ever. I sat there in my chair and was annoying the hell out of my wife because I was just making these smart ass comments about the logical fallacies in the movie. Okay, go ahead and kick Barb in. Barb, you're up.
Thank you, Wes.
Thanks, Wes. So Lynn, I was wondering too, going back to one of the questions I wanted to ask you before the last break, but we kind of ran out of time. You mentioned with the Kundalini that you do one class a week. Mm-hmm. Do you ever do that live to share with everyone?
I started out at the Awareness Center in Pasadena. And so when COVID hit and we were moving, I started doing all on Zoom, because I had a lot of students in Pasadena. So I'm about an hour and a half away from Pasadena now. So I have a whole new crowd of students. And so I am definitely, I'm not online right now, but it's definitely in my future. I have a website that I'm putting together and so, yeah, it'll be available. I'll let you know, Barb.
Yeah, please let me know.
Like it because
I think I would.
Yeah. Do you know about Reiki?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The closest I've gotten to that is doing more of the craniosacral work, which I'm sure you've heard of too.
Oh, yes.
They like to say it's more scientific, but honestly, I think it's more of an energy exchange as well. So
absolutely. Yeah. No, Reiki is just kind of like, you don't even touch, it's just, we have this auric field around us. We're all pure energy and everything on the planet is made up of stardust. It's made up of atoms and molecules. We're all made up of the same thing. It's just that they vibrate at a different level. Like a
Absolutely.
rock would vibrate very slowly. And we being as advanced as we are, we vibrate fairly fast. And, growing up in the 70s, we were really into peace and love. And, oh, that guy has a bad vibration. Oh, that's a good vibration. It was all about the vibrations. And it was something that we all felt, though. It was real, The vibrations are real. So what you do in Kundalini yoga, you come in with the stress and your life, and we all have our ups and downs. And by the end of class, everybody's so high. It's like everybody leaves my class so joyful, and they're loving and hugging each other. It's amazing how just an hour of this practice, and it's moving the body. It's ancient breath work. So you're really oxygenating the body. You're grounding. You're rooting into Mother Earth. You're feeling the Mother Earth's energy too, like how she nurtures us.
Well, I was going to say, Lynn, like you have a very calming energy about you. And that's why I asked too about, is that something you're going to do live? Because you just talking to you is just
Yeah,
kind of...
I asked Adrian at the last Scarefest. I said, I'd love to offer a Kundalini yoga class.
Oh, yes.
It's
Maybe
so crazy. Were you there at that Scarefest?
I was there
Yeah,
in Lexington this past October. That's the last two I was at. Yes.
Wild. There were so many people. They were expecting 15,000, and what did we end up having? Like 30,000 or something?
Oh, it was bananas.
Yeah. So there was no way I could have done it. I mean, I don't even know how that would have worked. It was just so unbelievable. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you do something like that. You offer something like that, though. Especially like you said, everyone needs something that they can just get grounded again. I mean,
and I had done all
today's
kinds
world.
After my daughters went off to college, I had to find something that was going to ground me and that I could be passionate about. So I tried every kind of yoga. I never heard about Kundalini yoga.
Yeah.
And then a girlfriend of mine told me about it, and I said, well, let me try that kind too, because I had Hatha, Iyengar, hot Bikram yoga, Kundalini yoga. Okay, well, there's nothing like Kundalini yoga. I mean, the
I
masters.
know you make me want to look this up now because I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it has its chink, just like Bikram and priests and people, once they become powerful and successful men, they fall prey to, and this happened to Yogi Bhajan. Yogi Bhajan came to America with bare feet and no money, and he became a multi-millionaire because of this practice. Yogi Tea, if you see that brand,
yes, I love Yogi Tea.
It's the best. That's him, and he's got properties and all kinds of other businesses, and he became very successful. And it didn't come out till after he died. A woman wrote a book called The Caged Bird Sings. And evidently, I mean, he was married and had children, and evidently she was his mistress and she would travel. She was supposed to be his secretary, but she would travel with him. And so the book opens with her sitting on a plane, and nobody can know that they're together. And she's pregnant, and she's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do carrying this man's baby? And he's married, and this could be a big scandal. And she waited until he was dead for about 5 or 10 years. And then she came out with it. And I was just getting certified, and then this information comes up. And a lot of people refuse to practice Kundalini anymore. So it is. And then most people just felt like it was such a gift that he brought, because it is so real and so powerful and so beautiful, that he was human. And humans fall prey to, this kind of thing. And so I was able to get past it. We don't mention him anymore. We just are grateful for the good that he did. And then you forgive him. He was a man. He wasn't a god. He was a man.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, so I hope it doesn't turn you off to Kundalini.
No.
Practice is very beautiful, very beautiful.
I will be looking into that.
And so
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
More about your massage, or just tell me what exactly you do. You do.
Yeah. Well, occasionally I will work on someone. If someone comes in and they suffer from migraines, that's where the cranial sacral, I feel like, can really come in and and make a difference for people when
That is so amazing. I mean, even when I go to get my hair cut, if the shampooer will do a massage, it's amazing. It can rid you of headaches and relieve so much tension and amazing.
Well, I think some of it too, like is with you mentioning that specifically, I think it's kind of very nurturing, brings you back to your childhood of someone touching your head too.
Yeah.
So, but I want to make sure we get to our next break. It's the perfect timing for that.
Oh,
so we'll
good.
cut to that.
Oh, we have another break. Okay.
We'll be back.
Okay.
Hey, Scarefest, this is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly, and my son has gotten into werewolves. So I asked somebody about werewolves, and then somebody I didn't even ask said, oh, you've got to watch this werewolf film. Now, they recommended a movie I hadn't seen that came out in 2024, The Wolf of Snow Holler. Actually, it's Wolf of Snow Hollow, but I'm from a holler, so. It's written and directed and stars Jim Cummings, and unless you're Orson Welles and sometimes George Clooney, you should never be the writer, director, and star. However, this is not a terrible movie, and it does have a pretty good cast. It has Ricky Lindome, you know her from a comedy team when she was in. Robert Forster, the late great character actor, he plays the dad of the marshal or the sheriff. It doesn't matter. And basically, it's a small town, and what happens is that this police officer, played by Jim Cummings, the writer-director, he is an addict, he's divorced, he doesn't get along with his teenage daughter, blah, 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 blah. He's overcome with emotions and problems, and there is a werewolf killing people. Or do we think it's a werewolf? Not going to give out too much. That is one of my problems of the explanation of how it happens, but he's really stressed out. He's having struggles. His dad is getting sick, and he's not able really, his dad's the main lead sheriff, and he's not able to really do what he used to be able to do. This movie's kind of like a comedy horror film in the sense of American Werewolf in London. It just doesn't land that well on all of it. And some scenes will work really well, and then they don't quite fit in with the rest of the movie. Is it here? Is it here? I enjoyed the movie. I actually think the werewolf in it looks great. But for example, the movie will completely stop and do a long shot, dolly shot, in on a character with nothing going on that takes up 2 or 3 minutes. It doesn't add anything. And then the character you see is clearly going to die. It doesn't build the suspense. It doesn't get you more invested in it. But Robert Forster's great in it. Jim Cummings, the writer-director, is good in scenes. And then in other scenes, it's just way too, his manic energy is way too over the top. It's a slightly miscast with the lead character. Also, the payoff, not terrible. And like I said, the movie does have a really cool looking werewolf. I just wish they had more of it. It's so hard to do werewolf films because they're basically just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Somebody is pretending, somebody has an alternate id. The id is coming out, and that's what's happening. That's all werewolf films are, right? There's just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And just the werewolves either look cool and tear you apart or they don't look cool. This werewolf looks awesome. But the explanation of it and all that, I mean, I actually had to ask somebody, go back and read a little bit more. Not quite that I didn't understand it. It just, I don't think they do a very good job. It's okay. I'm terrible at giving stars. So if I would say 4 stars, I'd say 2, 2.5. I said 10 stars, I'd say 5 or 6. If you like werewolves and you haven't watched a werewolf film, and because there's not a ton of good ones out there, this one's mediocre okay. I didn't dislike it. I actually enjoy it. And the parts where Robert Forster, the late great Robert Forster character actor, fantastic. Some of the fun were Ricky Lindome, and she's a comedian, look her up, Ricky Lindome, sorry. She's fantastic in her scenes. Some of the other ones are great. It's just overall kind of an uneven movie. I enjoyed parts of it. But that being said, any movie called The Wolf of Snow Hollow can't be all that bad. And it really isn't. Just not something I highly recommend. So if you have it and you can find it streaming for free, check out The Wolf of Snow Hollow. And it's only about 1 hour and 23 minutes. Check out Wolf of Snow Hollow. This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. Werewolves in a holler. I should write that.
And welcome back to Scarefest Television. We got just a few moments left with our guest tonight, Lynn Eastman Rossi.
Can I just tell from? Ow!
That's very, very good.
I love werewolves.
Okay, I have one last question for you.
And I love Frankenstein. And I love. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going through your IMDb credits, how
Yes.
in 1994 did you manage to get typecast as a home ec teacher? It caught my eye. Okay, first of all, Reform School
This
Girl.
is my Jonathan Kaplan. This is the man that, like, he's like a Scorsese. He had me doing voiceovers. He brought me in for anything that he possibly could. I played Dean Paul Martin's wife in Heart Like a Wheel, which Leo and I were dating at the time, and so they were all up in Washington. So they said, "Let's bring Lynn up, and we'll just put her in the car with Dean Paul Martin." And so I got to fly up with Dean Paul Martin on a plane, and what a charming guy, I gotta say. He was terrific. We had breakfast at the airport afterwards, and he was the kind of guy who was like, "My toast is not done enough. My coffee's cold. My eggs aren't hard." You know, he sent back everything. But yeah, so that was my story of. What did you ask me about?
No, I want to hear about Reform School Girl.
Like,
I started to rent it. It actually is streaming, but you have to rent it. But then I saw it was a TV movie. I said, well, I thought it might be, Cinemax After Dark kind of thing. But no, it's a TV movie. So I decided but it caught, I was looking at it here and it said,
oh, you're talking about Reform School.
And then Rebel Highway, home ec teacher.
That's right. I know. Well, just look at me. I always had the ingenue parts. Even Sally in Phantasm, she was the babysitter.
Wait. The ingenue home ec teacher.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just mean that I was, apple pie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's better. Yeah, we were going down a whole nother road that's like really popular with our Kentucky crowd. Anyway, I want to thank you so much. Barb, you got anything else left? We still got a couple minutes here.
Oh, no, I just wondered if there was any story that stuck with you from behind the scenes that you thought would be cool to share.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. I have a Billy Crystal. I have analyzed this story.
Okay.
Leo was in with Robert De Niro, and he never got to play opposite Robert De Niro because they looked a little bit too much alike. But Leo was taller, and De Niro didn't like that, So, but for this, he was supposed to be his cousin, so he got cast. So they're filming, and I'm with the girls, and we come to visit the set. And Billy Crystal had just hosted the Oscars for the very first time, and he was so brilliant. I was so impressed. So here he comes walking towards me, and I'm like, "Billy, I love you." And he goes, "Well, kiss me then, because I've been kissing Italian men all day." And so he gave me the biggest kiss. And if you see the movie, he's this Jewish, therapist who, De Niro's got problems, coping. So he hires Billy to be his therapist, and Billy has to be with him just to calm him down everywhere. So they're in this one scene, he introduces them, and all these big Italian men are coming up and doing the Italian kiss on each cheek, and there's like 10 of them, and it's in the movie. They just keep kissing him and kissing him, and they just filmed that. So when I said, "Billy, I love you," "Well, kiss me then, because I've been kissing Italian men all day."
Great.
But so many more. I mean, John Travolta, we went to the Cannes Film Festival with him and his wife, Kelly, who was still alive at the time, and they had their children. And he was, I love that whole family. I mean, it's just been a privilege to get to know so many people. And Hollywood's a small town, even though it seems like a big town, really it's a small town, with the working actors. And so there's a lot of other stories. I mean, Lonnie Anderson and Linda Carter, that was a whole thing. We moved to San Francisco for that, and they were so long in hair and makeup that it got to be a problem.
Oh, no.
Well, it was supposed to be this serious detective movie where they were at one time both married to the same detective, and when he passed away, he gave his detective business to his 2 ex-wives. So it was supposed to be serious, though. So when they hired these two, it was all about what they were wearing. They're running around the streets of San Francisco in these high heels and these gorgeous outfits, and their hair and makeup is all perfect and everything. So when Leo signed up to play Detective Vronsky, he took the role because he thought it was going to be a serious detective show. and it wasn't. You know. So it only made, you know, one season. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard because some, you know, people work so hard on these shows and you don't know if it's going to make it into a second
They
contract
just
or a
cast it
third.
wrong. They just
Yeah.
cast it wrong. It was hard to
Yeah.
buy. And at the time, Lonnie was dating Burt Reynolds, and he was in Florida, so she had it in her contract that she had to be on the Friday night flight by 8 o'clock to get to Florida in time to just be with him. So
Oh,
sometimes
that's
she would have
sweet
to.
though.
I know, it was a romance. It's a romance for sure. But no, the people that we met, we have our favorites. You know, we have people that we still keep in touch with all the time, and yeah, you know, it's our. My daughter just did an interview for a podcast about growing up in Hollywood, because we had Mary Kate and Ashley on our trampoline. You know, because my daughter went to preschool with Mary Kate and Ashley, and they became besties. You know, the Olsen twins.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a trampoline. So Leo comes home one day and they're bouncing, and he goes, "Get them off of there." You know, and he was seeing dollar signs, like if something happened to them, they could sue us, you know. And
I hate to say you have to think like that, though. But
At least
oh my
make them
gosh.
only go one at a time.
Oh,
Just saying.
yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
But
It was
thank you
crazy.
so much for
Oh, it's
coming
been a
on.
pleasure. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for having me. And I'll say hi to for you.
Special Scarefest thanks to you, Lynn Eastman. Everybody, this has been Scarefest TV.